The janitor nobody noticed at the hotel was too fancy for most people. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers. Waiters dressed better than some guests. Everything sparkled like it was touched by stars. And in the middle of all that shine and pride, walked a man in an old janitor uniform, head down, quiet, pushing a cart with a mop and bucket. Nobody gave him a second look. But what they didn't know was that this janitor was Keanu Reeves, not the movie star. Not the red carpet icon. Not the man known around the world. Here today, in this expensive hotel, he was just a cleaner. Nobody recognized him. He wore thick glasses and a fake beard. His hands were covered with old gloves. He moved with quiet purpose, as if every step had a secret behind it. Why was he doing this? 3 days ago he had received a letter. It wasn't typed. It was handwritten, with shaky lines and fading ink. A child named Elias wrote it. "Dear Mr. Keanu," it said. "My mom cleans floors at the Grand Atlantic Hotel. She works at night. People are mean to her. They don't even say hello. I want to help her, but I'm just a kid. Can you help me make people see her?" Keanu sat with the letter for hours. He read it again and again. He didn't know this boy. He didn't know the mother. But something about it made his chest feel heavy. It reminded him of his own mother, how she worked extra shifts, how she came home late and never complained, how nobody saw her, but she kept going anyway. So Keanu made a plan. He called his assistant and told her to cancel 3 days of meetings. He told his team not to tell anyone where he was going. And then he changed into an old janitor outfit, one that looked just like the ones used at the Grand Atlantic. Now he was here. He watched people ignore him. Businessmen with shiny shoes stepped past him like he was part of the floor. Women clutched their purses when he walked by, not seeing the kindness in his eyes. Even the manager looked through him, giving him quick orders without ever learning his name. Keanu didn't mind. Not yet. He was here to observe, to understand. And he found her on the second night. Her name was Clara. She was quiet, like the boy had written. She didn't look up much. Her shoulders were always tense. She moved fast but careful, like every mistake would cost her job. And when people talked to her, it was often with a raised voice or a rude tone. Some even called her, "Hey," instead of her name. Keanu worked beside her. He mopped floors she had just vacuumed. He wiped windows as she collected trays. She didn't talk much at first. She probably thought he was just another worker, another ghost in the hotel nobody saw. But then, during a break, he handed her a tea. It was cold outside, and her hands were shaking. "I noticed you don't get breaks often," he said gently. She blinked, surprised. "You're new," she whispered. Double quotes. "Yeah. Just helping out for a few days," he replied. They sat in silence, but it wasn't empty. There was something kind in that silence, like two people sitting in the same boat, paddling quietly through life's storm. As the night went on, he noticed more. Clara's back hurt. She had a limp. Every now and then she'd press her side like something was wrong. When he asked, she smiled and said, "Just old pain." But Keanu saw the truth. It wasn't just pain. It was years of hard work, ignored by the world. He went home that night feeling something strange, a mix of sadness and quiet respect. The next day, he returned early. This time, he came with something more than a mop. He carried a notebook. In it, he started writing everything he saw. How guests ignored Clara, how the hotel had no proper place for staff to rest, how one of the senior chefs yelled at a cleaner for dropping a spoon, how a guest spilled red wine and asked the janitor to clean it with no thank you. But that wasn't all. He also wrote about Clara's smile when she picked up a coin and gave it to a child who had dropped it, about the way she stopped to help another cleaner lift a heavy trash bag, about the moment she tied a young waitress's broken shoelace so she wouldn't trip. Acts of kindness. Small, quiet, invisible to many. But not to Keanu. By the end of day 3, Keanu had filled half the notebook. And on that night, he stayed after his shift. He sat on a bench outside the hotel with Clara. "Elias is your son?" he asked softly. She nodded. Her eyes widened. "How do you know?" Keanu took off his glasses, removed his fake beard. For the first time, Clara saw his real face. Her hand covered her mouth. "You're—" He nodded. Why are you here?" He handed her the notebook, "Because your son asked me to." Tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't speak, just stared at the pages filled with her name, her kindness, her pain, her worth. "You're not invisible," Keanu said. "Not anymore." But what neither of them knew, what even Keanu hadn't expected, was that someone had recorded him earlier that day. A guest had seen him quietly cleaning near the lobby and thought he looked familiar. They posted the video with the caption, "Is this Keanu Reeves pretending to be a janitor?" The video exploded overnight. Millions of people watched. Comments flooded in. Journalists, fans, influencers, everyone wanted to know why Keanu was in a cleaner's outfit. But Keanu didn't speak. Not yet. Instead, he made one more call. The next morning, a press van showed up at the Grand Atlantic, then another, and another. Cameras flashed. Microphones reached out. The manager was confused, scared even. And then Keanu stepped out in full janitor gear, holding Clara's hand. What happened next would shake the hotel and the world. The spotlight turns. Hotel lobby had never been that loud. Guests stood still. Staff peeked from behind doors. Phones were raised. Cameras flashed. Microphones were stretched forward like hungry hands. Keanu Reeves, dressed in a janitor's uniform, stood in the center of it all, holding Clara's hand. He looked calm, but his eyes carried purpose. Clara stood beside him, nervous, confused, and overwhelmed. Her fingers trembled in his, but he didn't let go. The manager of the hotel, Mr. Dalton, came rushing forward. He was red-faced, sweating under his designer suit, and trying hard to understand what was going on. "Mr. Reeves," he said, forcing a smile. We didn't know you were here." Keanu looked at him and gave a soft nod. "I know," he replied. "That's the point." Mr. Dalton chuckled nervously, still unsure. "If we had known, of course we would have." Keanu held up his hand gently. "This isn't about me," he said, turning to the cameras. "This is about Clara, and every single worker like her. The people who clean your rooms, wash your sheets, mop your floors, the people nobody notices." The room fell silent. Even the reporters weren't sure what to ask next. Keanu looked around. "I came here pretending to be a janitor. And in 3 days, I saw things I can't unsee. I saw kindness ignored, effort overlooked, people treated like background noise, and it's not okay." The journalists began scribbling. Microphones leaned closer. Everyone wanted more. "I met Clara on my second night," he continued, voice steady. "She works harder than anyone I've seen. She helps others even when no one helps her. And like many others in her position, she gets no recognition, no respect, and sometimes not even basic kindness." Clara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away this time. She stood tall, even in her old shoes and faded uniform. Keanu stepped back and gave her the space to speak. "Clara," he said softly, "you don't have to say anything if you don't want to." But she did. Her voice was soft at first. "I work night shifts. My son Elias waits for me every morning just to see me before school. I never wanted to be famous. I just wanted to do my job with dignity." She looked at the crowd. "And it hurts when people walk past like I'm not even here." A woman in the crowd whispered, "I've stayed here before. I never even looked." At the cleaning staff, a young man near her nodded. "Me neither." The silence grew heavier. Not because people were bored, but because they were thinking. Uncomfortable maybe. Ashamed even. Keanu stepped forward again. We live in a world where the spotlight often shines on the wrong things, he said. But maybe, just maybe, if we shift that light even for a moment, we can change something. Then he held up the notebook. The one filled with notes about Clara, about the other staff, about the hotel. This notebook holds more truth than any headline, he said. And I'm donating it to every journalist here. Read it, feel it, share it. A journalist from a major news network raised his hand. Keanu, are you planning to do more undercover work like this? Keanu paused, then nodded. Double quotes, yes, he said. Because there are still people we're not seeing. The internet was already flooded. Photos of Keanu in the janitor suit. Videos of him speaking in the lobby. Clips of Clara wiping her tears while holding his hand. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag Janitor. Hashtag respect workers. Hashtag CLARAS voice. But not everyone was happy. Behind closed doors, the hotel executives were in a panic. In the staff office, Mr. Dalton was pacing back and forth. He embarrassed us, he shouted. He's making us look like villains. A young staff member spoke up. Sir, he didn't make you look that way. You just were. Dalton froze. And for the first time maybe, he had no words. Meanwhile, Keanu sat with Clara in the quiet garden behind the hotel. She was still stunned. Why did you really do this? She asked him. He smiled. Because someone once helped my mom when nobody else would, and I promised myself one day I'd do the same for someone else. She looked down, tears falling on her hands. I don't know how to thank you, she whispered. You don't have to, he said. But if you want, help the next person who feels invisible. Later that evening, the hotel owners made a public statement. They apologized. They announced better pay and working conditions for all staff. They promised monthly appreciation awards and anonymous reporting systems for mistreatment. They also said Clara would now serve as a senior staff mentor for new hires. But none of this happened because the hotel wanted it. It happened because the world was watching. And Keanu? He didn't stay for the praise. He slipped out quietly through the back door, back in his regular clothes, and took a taxi to the airport. On the seat beside him was a crumpled drawing done in crayons. It was from Elias, a stick figure drawing of a janitor with a cape. Below it, in wobbly handwriting, were the words, "Thank you for seeing my mom." Keanu smiled at the drawing and held it close. But the story didn't end there, because the video of his undercover act reached someone else, someone who had once been like Clara, and now held power over $1 billion company, and that person was about to reach out to Keanu with an offer that would change everything. The secret invitation. It had been 2 weeks since Keanu walked out of the Grand Atlantic Hotel. He had gone back to his regular life, interviews, script readings, quiet dinners, but something inside him had shifted. The experience had left a veil. Mark, the notebook with Clara's story, the drawing from Elias, the tears in the eyes of those who finally saw the invisible, it all stayed with him. Keanu kept the janitor uniform folded in a drawer. Not as a costume, not as a memory, but as a reminder. Then, one morning, as he sipped his coffee in a small cafe near his home, his assistant brought over an envelope. It was black, heavy, no return address. This came by courier, she said. Only had your name on it. Keanu opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter. Dear Mayor Reeves, I saw the video. I saw Clara. I saw you. 20-5 years ago. I was a hotel cleaner too. I worked nights. I was yelled at, ignored, called names. Today, I run a company with over 80,000 employees, and many of them are still being treated the way I was. I want to change that. I want your help. No cameras, no stage, just a room full of leaders who need to open their eyes. We're meeting this Friday. I'll send a car. Come if you believe we can do more. Ray, Keanu. Read it twice. He didn't recognize the name. There was no company logo. Just the quiet, powerful honesty in the words. He folded the letter and placed it in his pocket. On Friday, the car arrived. It wasn't a limo. It was a plain black SUV, clean but not flashy. The driver didn't speak much. Just handed Keanu a card with a time and address. They arrived at a private building with no signs. Inside was a round table. 15 people sat around it. Men, women, older, younger, all dressed sharp but with tired eyes, and at the head of the table sat a woman in her late 50s. Silver hair pulled back, no makeup. Strong hands that showed years of real work. "Mr. Reeves," she said, rising. "Thank you for coming. You must be S-Ray," he replied. She smiled. "Call me Sarita." She turned to the room. "Everyone, this is Keanu." He reminded the world of something we all forgot. Keanu sat down slowly. "I'm not here as a star," he said. "I'm just trying to do something right." Sarita nodded. "That's exactly why you're here." The meeting began. One by one, each executive shared a story. A mistake they made. A time they ignored their lowest paid workers. Times they let others be mistreated in silence. And then, Sarita stood up. "We can't fix the world overnight," she said, "but we can start with our own halls, our own kitchens, our own staff." She turned to Keanu. "We want you to help us build something. Not a charity. Not a media stunt. Something real." Keanu leaned forward. "What are you thinking?" "A network," she said, "called Project Unseen." Keanu listened. "We'll start with hotels. Train their leadership to notice the unnoticed. Secret guests will rate them. Not just on luxury, but on how they treat their staff." Someone added, "If a hotel fails, they don't get the seal. And soon, people will only book with places that have it." Keanu's eyes lit up. "You want to change how people see service." "Workers," Sarita nodded. "Exactly." The next month was a storm of quiet meetings. Keanu flew under fake names. Visited hotels across the country. Watched, listened, filled more notebooks. He met a dishwasher named Tomas who fed stray cats behind the kitchen. A bellhop named Mira who knew 20 returning guests by name and made each feel like family, but who hadn't been promoted in 7 years. And a laundry lady named Betty who sang lullabies to calm a crying baby in the hallway, only to be told by her manager, "Mind your own job." Keanu spoke with them all. Never told them who he was. Just asked questions, listened, took notes. And then in secret, shared it all with Sarita. They built the first hotel training program. No boring slides, no cold policies. Instead, it was filled with real stories, real voices. But then, something unexpected happened. The owner of the Grand Atlantic Hotel, the same place where it all started, reached out. "Mr. Reeves," he said on a call, "I want to meet, in person." Keanu was cautious. "Why?" "Because you woke something up." "In me," the owner said. "And I need to fix what's broken. Not just in my hotel, but in me." Keanu agreed. They met in the same hotel lobby. The owner looked nervous. "I watched the footage," he said. "The way my staff treated you, treated Clara. It shamed me." "Shame's only useful if it leads to change," Keanu replied. The owner nodded. "I want to partner with your project. Open every door, offer full access. Make my hotel the first in the world to wear your seal." Keanu paused. Then smiled. "Let's start with one thing," he said. "Bring every staff member here tomorrow morning, all of them. No exceptions." The next morning, the grand ballroom was full. Cleaners, cooks, receptionists, dishwashers. Many had never even been allowed in that room before. And then the doors opened. And Keanu walked in, not as a guest, not as a janitor, just as a man with a promise. "You are the heart of this place," he told them. "And starting today, you will be treated like it." They stood. Some cried, Others clapped softly. But one thing was clear: something had shifted. The hotel began to change. Guests were encouraged to thank the staff. Name badges now included. A little story about hobbies, dreams, families. Staff rooms were upgraded. Monthly check-ins were introduced, and Clara? She now ran the new Staff Care and Wellness Department. The same woman who once walked quietly with tired eyes now led meetings with fire in her voice. But still, something felt incomplete. Keanu couldn't shake the thought of Elias. He had received a thank you card from the boy, but he hadn't seen him since. So one sunny afternoon, Keanu returned to Clara's apartment. He knocked softly. Elias opened the door. His eyes lit up. "You came back," he shouted. Keanu knelt. "I never forgot you, little Nan." Elias hugged him tight. "Mama's happier now," he whispered. "People smile at her. Even the boss gave her flowers." Keanu looked at him. "You made that happen, with your letter." Elias grinned. "I got an idea." "What is it?" Keanu asked. "What if we help janitors in schools next?" Keanu froze. Then slowly smiled. "You know what, Elias? That's the best idea I've heard in weeks." They both laughed. And so, with a new notebook in hand and a young partner by his side, Keanu began a new chapter. What started with one mop, one letter, one heart, was now becoming a movement. And somewhere, in another city, another unseen worker was about to be noticed for the very first time. The school with locked closets. The next stop was not a hotel, not a fancy restaurant, not even a business. It was a school. And it started the same way it always did, with a quiet hallway and a child's question. "Keanu," Elias said one evening, holding a cookie in one hand and a pencil in the other, "do you know the name of your school's janitor when you were my age?" Keanu paused. His face softened. He tried to remember. The image was there, a man with a limp, always wiping the same floor, always silent. But the name? No. He didn't remember. "I never asked," Keanu admitted. Elias looked disappointed. "Most kids don't," he said. "Even at my school. We don't talk to Mr. Remai. He's nice. But some kids laugh at him when he walks by." That night, Keanu lay awake in bed thinking about Mr. Remai. Not the name, but what he represented. All the Remais in the world. All the quiet workers in schools who mopped up lunch spills, cleaned up pencil shavings, and picked up pieces of children's broken days. The next day, he made a call to the school principal. Double quotes, "Hi, this is Keanu Reeves," he said. Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, what?" "I want to volunteer at your school," he said simply. Again, silence. "Doing what?" the principal finally asked. "Cleaning," Keanu replied. "But only if I can work with your janitor." And so it began. He wore the same old uniform, same gloves, same fake beard. Even added a small bump to his shoe to walk with a limp, just like the janitor he once saw in his own school. At the back entrance, the school secretary handed him a badge. "Mr. Keith," it read. Students didn't look twice. Teachers gave him polite nods. No one knew, until he met Mr. Remai, a thin man with tired shoulders and deep lines around his eyes. His gray mustache twitched when he smiled. "You're the new helper?" Remai asked. Keanu nodded. "Yes, sir." Remai chuckled. "Sir? Nobody calls me that." Keanu smiled. "Maybe they should." Remai took him through the halls, showed him the broom closets, the old vacuum that barely worked, the mop bucket with one broken wheel. "Budget cuts," Remai explained. "We're invisible when the lights are on, but the first to blame when they go off." Keanu didn't respond. Just took mental notes. They worked side by side for 3 days. He watched kids slam doors behind them without a word. Teachers walked past without noticing. One afternoon, a student knocked over a trash can, laughed, and said, "Don't worry. The cleaners got it." Keanu bent down to clean it without a word. But his heart ached. Later that evening, while cleaning the teacher's lounge, Remy sat down and rubbed his knees. 40 years, he said softly. I've seen hundreds of kids grow up. Some of them even come back as teachers. But not once has anyone asked me about my life. Keanu finally looked up. What would you tell them if they did? Remy smiled. That I once played the violin in a cafe back home. That I moved here to give my daughter a better life. That I love mango ice cream. And that I dream of retiring near the ocean, where I can hear music instead of school bells. Keanu didn't speak. He just listened. And that night, he wrote again, page after page. About Remy. About the closet without light. About the students who didn't know kindness yet. About the courage it took to wake up every day and serve a place that barely saw you. On the fourth day, a surprise arrived. Elias had told his class. His teacher, Miss Lena, emailed every parent. This week, we're doing a project called Humans of the Hallway. Each child will interview one non-teaching staff member and learn their story. The school buzzed with new energy. Kids walked up to the cafeteria lady and asked what her favorite food was. One student found out the librarian had once climbed a volcano. Another discovered the crossing guard had survived 2 hurricanes and still smiled every morning. But the best moment came during morning assembly. The principal stepped onto the stage. We have a guest today, she said. You may not recognize him because he chose to wear a different uniform, but Mr. Keith is actually someone you've seen in movies. Students gasped. And then Keanu removed his glasses and fake beard. Every kid stared. One of them shouted, "No way!" But Keanu didn't walk to the stage. He stepped aside and held Remy's hand instead. This is Mr. Remy, he said, his voice clear and full. He is the hero of this school. And today, I want you to hear his story. Remy stepped forward nervously. He spoke softly, but the room listened. He talked about the violin, about his daughter, about his dreams. And when he finished, the students stood up one by one and clapped. Some had tears in their eyes. Keanu ended the moment with one sentence. You can't respect your school if you don't respect everyone inside it. After that day, everything changed. A group of students started a weekly Thank You Thursday, where they made cards for the staff. Teachers added short interviews into class time to let workers share their stories. The school painted murals in the hallway. One of them showed Remy holding a violin under a mango tree, with kids smiling around him. And on his final day there, Keanu gave Remy a gift, a round-trip ticket to a seaside town and a handwritten letter. You reminded me what music sounds like when nobody's listening, he wrote. Thank you, Remy cried. Not quietly, not shyly, but with joy. And Keanu, he walked out of that school the same way he entered. No camera, no noise. Just another man with a mission. But he didn't know that the movement was about to get bigger. Because a video of his school visit, secretly recorded by a student, had gone viral. Again. This time, the world didn't just see Keanu. They saw the children. They saw Remy. They saw that kindness wasn't just a story, it was a seed. And in the most powerful corners of the internet, a new hashtag bloomed. Hashtag Humans of the Hallway. And somewhere across the world, another janitor opened their locker, not to find another mop, but a note from a student who finally saw them. The letter that broke the silence. News of Keanu's undercover school visit was still spreading like wildfire. Parents reposted the video. Celebrities shared the mural of Remy under the mango tree. Schools from Canada to South Africa emailed Project Unseen, asking how they could be part of the kindness training. Even school boards started talking about it, not in whispers but in actual meetings. But Keanu wasn't watching the trend. He was back in his garden, sitting on the old bench with Elias beside him, both sipping orange juice from mismatched cups. You think we did enough? Elias asked. Keanu looked at him. We started something, but enough? Not yet. Just then, his assistant walked outside, holding a letter. This came today, she said. Delivered by hand. Keanu took it carefully, no return address. Just one line on the front. I saw you in the hallway. He opened it slowly. It wasn't a letter. It was a stack of them. At least 30 handwritten notes, each in a different color, different size, different hand. He and Elias sat there reading one after another. Dear Keanu, my dad is a janitor. He never complains. After your visit, I hugged him for the first time in weeks. My grandma cleans hospital rooms. After seeing your video, our hospital gave her a raise. I didn't know we were supposed to thank cleaners. But now I do. But one letter stopped Keanu cold. It was written by a woman named Emma Isol. It said, I've been a cleaner at an airport for 22 years. No one has ever said my name out loud on purpose until last week. A teenager walked up to me and asked, Are you Marisol? I nodded. He handed me a flower and said, Thank you for making this place shine. I smiled so big. My face hurt. Later he said, Keanu taught me to notice people like you, so thank you. Not for your movies, not for your fame. But for the flower. That made me feel like a person again. Keanu didn't speak for a long time. He folded the letter, placed it in his pocket next to Elias's drawing. Then he turned to Elias and said, We need to do something bigger. Elias raised his eyebrows. How big? Bigger than hotels? Bigger than schools? You mean, like the whole world? Elias asked. Keanu chuckled. Something like that. That night, Keanu made calls to leaders in every country he'd ever worked in. Filmmakers, activists, school heads, corporate trainers, influencers who actually cared. And one by one, they joined him. They didn't want to build a company. They wanted a culture. So, together, they launched something new. The Unseen Week. 1 week every year, global. Every school, hotel, business, hospital, train station, airport, anywhere people walk past others without seeing them. For 1 week, the invisible become visible. But unlike other awareness weeks, this one wasn't about hashtags. It was about actions. The rules were simple. Learn one worker's full name. Listen to their story. Thank them in a real, personal way. Then teach someone else to do the same. The announcement video was short. Just 45 seconds. It opened with Rami playing a slow melody on the violin. Then flashes of workers smiling. Hospital janitors, street cleaners, laundry staff, cafeteria workers, bus cleaners. The final line appeared in silence. See them. Hear them. Honor them. And below it, the Unseen Week, starting this October. Keanu didn't appear in the video. Not once. He wanted people to focus on the message, not the man. But still, reporters wanted more. They followed him, asked for interviews, begged for TV specials. Finally, he agreed to one short live session. He walked into a studio. No makeup, no lights. Just a stool, a camera, and a heart full of stories. The host asked, What made you do all this? Keanu paused. Then said, A boy wrote me a letter. That's all it took. What do you want people to learn? That respect is free, he said. But when you give it to the right people, it becomes priceless. The host looked confused. So you think everyone deserves the spotlight? Keanu smiled softly. No, he said. Some people deserve something better than the spotlight. They deserve to be seen in the light of everyday kindness. After the session, he went home. And there, waiting on his porch, was a small box. No name. Just a single sticker on top. You helped my mother. Inside was a folded cloth, a janitor's apron. Stitched across it with golden thread were the words, We clean more than floors. We clean the world's reflection. Keanu touched the fabric with reverence. That night, he stood in front of a mirror. He put the apron on. And for a moment, he didn't see a movie star. He saw a man who had finally understood something deeper than fame. He saw every face he'd met on his journey, Clara, Remy, Marisol, Tomas, Betty, and knew the real heroes were never in front of the camera. They were always behind the scenes. But something was still missing. A voice. Someone had been quiet for too long. The next morning, he dialed a number he hadn't called in years. It rang twice. Hello? Came a soft, tired voice. Mom, he said, I have a story to tell you. She listened. He told her about Elias, about Clara, about Remy, about the unseen week, about the airport cleaner who received a flower, about the boy who started it all. And for the first time in a long time, his mother cried on the phone. You remember when I used to come home with sore feet? She whispered. I remember everything, he replied. I didn't think anyone ever saw me, she said. I didn't then, he whispered back. But I see you now. And in that moment, with tears on both ends of the line, the story came full circle. But it wasn't over yet, because the final part of the journey was about to begin with a call from someone completely unexpected. Asterisk the final door phone. Call came at a quiet morning. Keanu was watering his garden. The sun was gentle. Birds chirped softly from the fence. The world felt slow and peaceful until his phone rang. The name on the screen wasn't familiar, but something about it made him answer. Hello? Keanu said. A firm but warm voice replied. Mr. Reeves, this is General Director Olivia Tan from the United Nations Human Rights Office. Keanu straightened up. We've been following your work closely, she said. From the hotels to the schools, to the unseen week. You've reminded the world of something we lost. He stayed silent, unsure where this was going. We want you to speak at the Global Dignity Summit in Geneva, she continued. Not as a celebrity, not as an actor, but as a witness. Keanu blinked. A witness? Yes, she said. To the forgotten people. The ones your eyes chose to see. He accepted. He didn't sleep much that night. He sat in the dark, reading every letter he had received. From Clara, from Remy, from Marisol. From students, janitors, single mothers, retired workers. He packed them all into a single black folder and flew to Geneva. The summit hall was grand, full of suits, ties, laptops, and cameras. World leaders, ministers, directors, and reporters from over 70 countries had filled the room. When they announced Keanu's name, the applause was long, but he didn't smile. He walked to the podium. Slowly, placed the folder in front of him, then looked up. I won't take long, he began, because people like me, we've had enough time in the spotlight. He took a breath. But there are people who haven't, and they're the reason I'm standing here. He opened the folder and pulled out a drawing. This was given to me by a boy named Elias, he said. His mother was a cleaner at a hotel. Guests yelled at her. Managers ignored her. Her son saw it. He asked me to help. He showed the drawing to the room, a stick figure of a janitor wearing a cape. I didn't fix the world, he continued. I just decided to look where others didn't, and what I saw broke me. But it also changed me. He told them about Clara. About Remy. About Marisol. About students learning the names of those who worked in silence. Respect, he said slowly, is not a reward, it's a right. And if your systems don't give it, they are broken. A few people nodded. Others just watched, listening closely. Then Keanu did something unexpected. He stepped away from the podium. Walked down the stairs. Stood in the center aisle. And asked, how many of you know the name of the person who cleaned your office this morning? The room went still. A few people looked down. Others shifted in their seats. He looked around. We talk about justice, equality, peace. But those words mean nothing if we don't see the ones holding the floor beneath us. He walked back to the front and ended with this. If your dignity depends on someone else staying invisible, then it's not dignity, it's pride. And pride never changed the world. Kindness did. When he finished, there was no applause at first. Just silence. Then, one by one, people began to stand, not out of routine, but out of respect. He left the stage with no cameras chasing him. No interviews. He just walked into the hallway, away from the noise. Waiting there was Sarita Ray. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," he replied. She handed him a new envelope from someone who couldn't be here. Inside was a photograph. A group of cleaners from a hospital in Vietnam, standing tall, smiling, each holding a badge that read, "I am seen." On the back, a short note. "We watched your speech. We cried, we laughed. We stood in front of a mirror today and told ourselves we matter." Keanu held the photo to his heart. Back home, life returned to normal. But the world didn't, because Project Unseen had become something unstoppable. Schools added dignity classes. Hotels ran yearly story nights for their workers. Companies built walls of appreciation. Janitors and cleaners were interviewed on news programs, not for what they cleaned, but for who they were. And Keanu? He stayed quiet. He kept his janitor uniform. Sometimes, on random weekends, he still wore it. He'd go to a place where nobody knew him, just to mop a floor, to remind himself where the real work was. And one evening, many years later, he visited a small art gallery in a quiet town. Inside, a young woman was painting a large mural. Keanu walked up and said, "This is beautiful. What is it?" She turned, smiled, and said, "It's called The Man with the Mop. My mom used to be a cleaner. She told me about you." He looked at the mural. It showed a janitor standing alone in a hallway. But in his reflection on the floor, he had a crown not made of gold, but of tiny stars and names. Names like Clara, Raymai, Marisol. Keanu touched the painting. "What's your name?" he asked. "Naima," she said. He smiled. "Thank you, Naima, for seeing what most people don't." She nodded. "It's the least I can do. After all, my mom says you helped the world clean its heart." Outside the gallery, Keanu stood. For a moment, looking up at the night sky. He didn't feel famous. He felt full, not because of what he had done, but because of who he had chosen to see.